Welcome to 2025. Aren't we glad it's over? I am Louis Brandmeier here to review some cool books and to share my experience and the story of my year, which is titled 2025 Stand Your Ground, which is a quote from Star Trek First Contact, where the ship is being overrun by these evil aliens. They're cyborgs, they're called the Borg. And there's a downtrodden officer who comes to Captain Picard and is like, the it's like we're shooting blanks. Nothing we're doing is working. And Captain Picard says, "Tell your men to stand their ground." And this inspires me because I stayed. I chose to stay. There were many times when I wanted to go away, as in not be on this planet, as in not be in this life in the past year, because there was such a conspiracy of so many different things. It occurred this way, not going the way that I would prefer. Um, there were moments financially, health-wise, emotionally, socially. There were manifestations of trauma. You know, we go where we live emotionally, we use our environment and the people in it to get us there. And it seemed an enhanced frequency and intensity of the main piece within me, which is healing the experience of being sort of abandoned, betrayed, kicked out, killed off, let go of by someone who I love or who is close to me. Um, and it kept showing up over and over. And I was just like, ouch, oh, ow, ow, ow. And I started to explore things like body electronics, somatic experiencing, and just nervous system work in order to remediate for it because it's been there for a long time, but disconnecting from the overlighting of the divine dome, as it has been called, of the organizations and communities with which I've been participating, which we'll talk about, it left me no longer in the wake of their vibration and thus needing to deal with what was in me in a way that would free me to just be with me rather than to reach out for some we to save me or to slake my thirst for a better feeling life, which is the danger in having a community that actually uplifts you, is they could be helping you hide from you what there is to do to have you be better than who and how you are. So let us start this story with an appropriate surrender and guidance and meditation. Take a deep breath with your right hand on your physical heart as if into your heart. Let it go. And again. And again. God, infinite intelligence, guide my hands starting from the first moment of this recording, going back in time to the end of this storytelling, that it may impact, uplift, inspire, serve, support, and make a grand difference for whoever encounters it, whoever hears it, whoever receives it. May it be more than just me telling my story. May it be you guiding my hand to grant grace and possibility to those in my hearing. I pray this in the name of love. Amen. All right. So where do we start? Well, I've got a lot of background. No, literally, I've got a lot of this, and then I've got a lot of backgrounds. But this is my favorite. It's Indra's Net. You can look that up if you want to know more about what that is, what that means. Somebody told me, wouldn't it be cool to go ecstatic dance here? And I'm like, yeah, that's true. So I started 2025. Um, and by the way, 38 is going to be great. I just turned 38. And 37 was what the fuck, man. I was just like, really? And then it was kind of an epic adventure. It's crazy and inspiring. Again, I share not to impress, but to impress upon you what's possible. And you are how others relate to you. Your being yourself takes shape in their seeing, their listening, and their relate shunning or relate shun shipping, shunning with you. We aren't just that, but we are that for sure. And pretending we're not is to leave life on the table. There's something I encountered, it must have been late November, early December, called social baseline theory, where the idea is we are physiologically, neurologically, emotionally, energetically regulated through regular, not agendaless contact with people for whom we matter beyond what we can do for them or beyond um, what we're trying to sell them or be sold to them, to us by them. And I wasn't giving myself that or probably enough sunlight, to be honest. So those are very important. Sunlight, grounding, human contact. I live alone and I work alone most of the time, so it takes effort. I created an anchor statement this year called the anchor statement, and it situated me in the context of a regular, reliable, consistent visioning, first three times every day when I woke up, when I went to bed, and then at noon, or when I remembered in the middle, of standing in the feeling of my wish fulfilled based on the book, a book I read a couple times called It Works, the little red book that will make all of your dreams come true. And did it make all of my dreams come true? No. But did it increase my speed and my focus and my ease of manifesting what I needed? Yes. And what I desired? Absolutely. So that was a blast. That was a blast because I would stop and I would simmer and I would sort of allow the vision to percolate in me. I would sponge it up because you feed your vision will feed you. If you feed it inside of you, it will come to exist outside of you, through you, by action and by manifestation. What you want wants you by and large, so long as it's not, changing all of international law in one fell swoop. There is a truth. You can have anything that you want in life, but not everything. And you can change anything you want in your life, but you can't change everything throughout life. So everything that's in front of you, you're creating and you're responsible for. So you can choose to uncreate it or create it differently. And you're the one responsible for making that happen. It's up to you. It's something that you can do. Anything the mind of a man or a woman can conceive and bring itself to believe and perceive and receive, as in experience as a lived reality, and then ask and it is given, like be open to receiving in a way and at a time you don't expect, without attachment, without resistance. Then what becomes available is anything the mind of man can conceive and bring itself to believe, perceive, and receive, it can achieve. Because it's no longer just you doing it, it's your subconscious, your superconscious, your infinite intelligence conspiring with you. So in this anchor statement, it was things like, oh, I choose my life of freedom of service, love, money, wealth, travel. I traveled 4 times this year, if I recall correctly. Um, and experienced going home to visit my mother in her new house. And what relaxation, nourishing, and nurturing I received from just being in my family field. They're slower, they're older, and it's just great because I found a recommitment to health this year and a recognition that true wealth is only going to come from my highest choice of health and thriving instead of my body and my nervous system being a drag on the hot air balloon of my rise into my highest choice and thrilling thriving. And by the way, everyone gets blessed when you receive your thrilling thriving life. Feel free to repeat this after me. Everyone gets blessed when I receive my thriving life. There you go. So that anchor statement really guided me through. And it also, around March, when I received this download of a vision so great, big, huge, gigantic, consuming for me, that I've been devotedly walking towards it since, I added that. And I transitioned from 3 times a day over the course of 90 days to once a week. And so it keeps me focused, it keeps me driven, it keeps me motivated, it keeps me in action. And it works, like the book says, because if it is to be, it depends on me. And if I am wanting something, I need to stay specifically focused on it. Now, the big vision that keeps me in the game and will keep me in the game for 10, 20 years if need be. however long it takes, whatever it takes. That's another lesson of the year. Patience, persistence, and a willingness to march in the direction of wherever you want to get to without attachment and with full faith that it'll happen, but knowing and trusting that it will not go the way that you are attached to. If you think it will happen this quickly or in this way, oh, you're going to have a fun day. And here's the other thing, your vision must be so big and so profound that it requires profound faith and devoted secrecy. Well, not necessarily devoted secrecy, but mine does, given the nature of the vision. Secrecy and silence. Faith untested can't be trusted. If it's not big enough to require faith, it's not big enough for who you truly are. So, one of the very first things I did after practicing this anchor statement was the master cleanse. I never thought maple syrup and cayenne pepper would be so delicious. I created a school group, immediately leveraged it and my Enchanters meetup to create an $11,000 month in cash collected in January. That was awesome. And then I started attending church every Sunday. So there's a story that Yogananda tells about a billionaire who kept leaving to come up to his retreat every weekend. And he would pray, he would meditate, all the things. And then uh, he would have this desire to go back down. And so during the week, he would eat, drink, be merry, have sex, do drugs, whatever. And he would come back up and be like, hey, what you got to know, I go back there and I do all this stuff. And then I come back up here. And the guru was like, yeah, that's fine. I just can't promise that if you keep coming up here, you'll want to keep going down there. That hasn't happened to me with going to church yet. I still want to live life and create a beautiful, epic experience of all kinds of different things that thrill me and aspects of life to explore. But I'm learning from a font or a channel of wisdom, interpretation of primarily the King James Bible, which I've read. I read the whole New Testament on a 4-day water fast. Well, I finished the New Testament. I'd been starting it earlier in the year. And then I have read a lot of the prophets. The Song of Solomon was great. I've had trouble moving through the Old Testament, but let me tell you, I've written WTF in all caps in the margins a lot as I've gone through the Bible. It's, you know, apparently it's supposed to convict and cut away what in you does not work in cosmic order. And I'm like, maybe, or maybe some of this stuff is just insane and unethical and crazy. We'll find out. I'm going to continue to read through it, but that seesaw merry-go-round, incessant battle between the mind and heart, between faith and reason, between what I would experience at church. For example, there was one Sunday when I went and I was experiencing suicidal depression. I was like, what the fuck? What's the point? And then the leader, Andres Martinez, prayed over me, and I deliver you from spirits of suicide. And I was like, I I felt better instantaneously. It wasn't a hardcore, like, let me spend 6 weeks doing a coaching program or a new modality or somatic work. It was like, and the next day I was like, all right, well, I am gonna preach the gospel that everybody's loved by God. Now, of course, it's been a seesaw because I think certain things and certain people that I listen to and certain ways of being in my life pull me in a certain direction. I'm not incentivized to stop pursuing those things enough to just drop them. I spent 15 years building my capacity to create an epic life, and I've achieved a lot, and I still believe that I can. And so, full surrender to anyone's frame around theology, spirituality, Christianity, God, Christ, love, whatever, has been difficult. I've provisionally um, taken on certain frames that have allowed me more peace, love, and joy, palpable, obvious, evident, point-toable benefits. But by and large, the frames that have been offered to me have not produced the results that I'm looking for. And so I'm like, what will it take? And the tricky part is, as I look back lengthwise on my journey, I was in a morass of philosophical confusion, doubt, and disarray throughout most of college and then into my time after that. Existentially, not knowing what to value and not knowing what to believe, and just saying, all right, well, we don't know anything and there's no way to know anything, but pragmatically, we want to thrive. So let's start working on that question. How do we thrive? And then I took the Landmark Forum and Your Wish is Your Command and some of, A Course in Miracles and that kind of a thing. And it was like, what I received were bits and pieces of frames that supported me that if I'm congruent with them or I allow them in or I allow them to motivate and inspire me, things work better in my life. And I'm like, okay, I'll do that. But apparently you can't come to the Christian God and say, hey, I'm going to follow your frames so that I can get more of the fruit that I want. No, it's got to be a full stop surrender. And then from there, if you have surrendered, you'll get what's meant for you, not what you actually want. And it will supposedly be more satisfying than what you want. And I'll say this, have been moments in my life when God, infinite intelligence, has given me better than I can imagine. Like when I put on my vision board, I want to manifest a new girlfriend in 2020. And the woman who showed up into my life was my high school crush from 15 years before. And that became the most epic relationship. I wouldn't have thought that wasn't even on my radar. So, that there is more than in heaven and earth than is dreamt of in your philosophy, Horatio. That was Shakespeare. And I try to stay open to that and see my video on the 5 levels of consciousness for how and why that's an important inquiry. But yeah, let's move on with the conversation. So I discovered ChatGPT as a philosophical sparring and creative partner. I kept showing up like the Yogananda story. I went to my Empowering Austin Now event, first live event for Ian in years since I put it on the shelf after COVID. Soft relaunched the brand at a uh, Tantra retreat center, the Alpaca Playhouse in East Austin. And literally, someone with the exact same name as my former partner showed up to the event. And when I found out that they were showing up, I got all excited, called my former partner. She messaged me back like, I don't know what you're talking about. Um, and I realized, oh, I still have a lot of energy for her. So we did a soul fragment retrieval, which I wouldn't have known how much energy I had about her still at that point if we hadn't done or if that hadn't happened. So that occurred as cosmic. And then later in February, there was a moment when, at the end of my Awaken Relentless Love and Partnerships class, I felt inspired to make an offer. I made the offer. The people in the room were all broke and they didn't take the offer. And I didn't know how I was going to pay rent the next week. And I was like, all right, well, what do I do? And my intuition said, gift them a bunch of coaching. So I gifted them a bunch of coaching. And as it turns out, the very next day, earmarked for me in a bank account that I did not expect was the equivalent of the money worth of coaching I had just gifted. And I was like, all right, feel free to prosper works. And I am provided for by God and by God's grace, and I receive. So then I did body electronics with Tatiana Fontalvo. Amazing, having mostly Indian men hold points on my body, causing excruciating pain as nervous system trauma and emotional stuff released and moved through. And then I was blissed out amazing on the other side. Highly recommended it. I had vivid, visceral, as if true to life 2CB journeys and sex in my dreams. Perhaps 100 erotic dreams and definitely dozens of erotic poems about women who I encountered or briefly dated or was attracted to. One of my 8-figure mentors even donated into a ministry, it is a mystery too, that didn't exist yet when my intuition told me to preach the gospel, telling people that they're loved by God. And then I was vociferously doubting all of what I had preached to some degree days later. And I read the book of Revelation, did a Bible study with my mom and a YouTube video series on that. And it's inscrutable, y'all. There's many mysteries as there are words, St. Jerome says, and it's intense and a challenge to make sense of. I listened to all 12 of the dramatic audio books or dramatic audio productions of the Left Behind series. And that was a blast. There's a whole video on that on my YouTube channel as well called Christians with Uzis. um, 12 books in 14 days, something like that. And my YouTube channel reawakened. My Make Love Easy podcast relaunched. And it's been epic. The Mystic Crew. Let's talk about the Mystic Crew. I had trouble being on my own, doubting and dancing with the nature of truth. And I really wanted someone to support me into and through what I was dealing with, what I was dancing with. And, parallel processors on the same data, doing this dance in community, right? So let's go a little bit back. Beyond me working hard to try to indoctrinate myself back into Christianity and fractionating back and forth out of it and then into it again. I attended a retreat called the Remember Experience, received a download from my intuition at the airport, the perfect moment letting me know that I was about to miss my flight when I had no idea the gate had changed. And I followed the spiritual surgeon, which is a GPT of my mentor, Jonathan England, to burn all but one of my Aleister Crowley books. And I was like, so this is what being a dystopian fascist feels like. I thought to myself with a little bit of glee. Um, Within days after I had arrived home from the retreat, a couple things happened. One, I discovered Letting Go by Stephanie Gretzinger. It was possibly the best praise and worship song in existence. And I put it on repeat and cried and opened and received and was nurtured and nourished by the presence of divine grace and found myself like moving back and forth in the way that I understand like Kabbalistic mystics or other people do when they are um, having like a really intense spiritual experience. I just did this intuitively. And so there was something there. Now, of course, the next day I did research and I was like, oh, praise and worship can produce all of these neurological results, even if it has no meaning and even if nothing is happening beyond the physical level. So anyway, this retreat happened, and then the other thing that happened after the retreat, me finding this and burning the books, was a friend of mine killed themselves. They clearly made a suicide attempt jumping off a cliff, and then they were found drowned the next day. And that, plus what happened after that, led to a heart-rending and mind-spinning soul search through the nature of power and cults and spirituality and truth. And there was also, I'll share with you another book that I had written earlier in the year that I'm considering relaunching and rewriting called The Gnostic Knife Fight: My Journey from Being Born Mormon through Protestant, Catholic, atheist, occultist, existentialist, Buddhist, Taoist, psychedelic, Buddhist, New Ager, and now maybe mystic Christian, but even harder core philosopher if we really think about it. And so yeah, that was reviewed well by two eight-figure mentors, and I'm happy to gift you a copy of the Gnostic Knife Fight. But the crux of it is Blaise Pascal did this thing called Pascal's wager, where it was like there's at least four options. One is we be a certain way and God exists and we go to heaven. That's great. We be a certain way and God does not exist, and maybe we're better people. Even though we believe he exists or she or whatever. Okay, and then there's two other options. We believe that God exists, and or we don't believe, and then we go to hell. Okay, so that's a risk. So two out of three chances believing in God is better. And then there's another option, which is we don't believe God exists, and it doesn't matter. There is no God. So you can run this gamble for really not just Christianity, which is where it was invented. And he was biased in the direction of make the gamble, like definitely take the risk and believe. And he said we should believe because we might be better people, we might reap better rewards. Now you can do this gamble with all 100,000 different spiritual traditions on the planet, or paths, or all 50,000 different interpretations of Christian scripture. That's an escalatingly complicated number of variables. We're not just having one Pascal's wager, we're in Pascal's casino. And I don't think it dignifies human consciousness, anthropology, history, or religion or spirituality to just say, hey, you should believe my one. Well, why should I believe your one? It makes me feel better and it'll make you feel better. Well, what'll make us feel best and thrive most as a human species? I don't know. But I'm in the inquiry of that, and it has to bear fruit not just for me, but for we. It can't just be some navel-gazing autistic, narcissistic solipsism where I feel that I am in love, but I'm alone in my apartment and, just like blissed out. It's got to be more than that. Mm. But it's also got to be immune to doubt. It's got to be something that we can all point to and be like, hey, I can be about that. So we're always already taking a gamble in Pascal's casino. Even if you do not decide, you still have made a choice. You've made a choice for a certain direction. Even if you're an atheist, agnostic, I'm not sure. Your life reflects what you're choosing to value. And the unexamined life is not worth living, for sure. The unlived life is not worth examining. So there's a balance there and a tinkering between theory and praxis. But I'm not going to give you your answer. I'm just going to share that I wrote a book trying to figure out mine between spirituality, religion, mysticism, the whole nine yards. And there's going to be a better version of it. That this was the point 0.5 version. It's going to be a 1.0 version at some point. Um, I started doing somatic experiencing, and I triggered and scared the shit out of a facilitator paid to hold space for me to the point where she ran away from the Zoom room and refused to give me a full refund for the sessions she had skipped or shown up late for, or just not shown up for all at all, whatever. Um, and that taught me, hey, what's in me is heavy and hefty and intense. And so I started using my boxing bag. The rage, pain, and experience of feeling profoundly alone, abandoned, unheard, and meaningless surfaced with a vengeance. And I say it's coming up to come out. I'm walking a path whose length and depth I do not understand and cannot predict. And the only option is to keep walking. And I've given my word to probably, 3 or 4 men that I will stay on this planet. I will stay alive and keep walking no matter how much my mind wants me to die in moments like that. And I hold people close and I choose to have deeper, more nourishing friendships and a better social circle and all of it. So, yeah, everything happens for a reason. All things work for good. So did all of that. So do I. So do you. So let's go. And even though I've never spent more of my year feeling bad, fighting caustic thinking, and emotional pain with this intensity before, where skepticism, loneliness, alienation, and just life circumstances conspired to create it to have me feel as if I was in a living hell, I turned around midway through this to be the change that I wanted to see, not just in my own life, but also with and for the men around me. A half a dozen men in a men's group that ended up going for 18 weeks. I called it the men's group. And yeah, within like 24 hours, I had 20 people show up to an event, or within like a couple days. And then I founded a church and a spiritual community. So the spiritual community we've already talked about, the Mystic Crew. The church is called the Church of the Never Love that Never Leaves. I started holding weekly Awaken Relentless Love and Partnerships events that have been this precious channel for me to remember who I am while serving God and love, helping people create and thrive in and reignite the intimacy of their dreams, right? Because I love love and I love helping people to ignite love. Um, so, I also grew a TikTok following. This is pretty cool. Let me show you. It's really pretty and colorful. Highly recommend you follow. It's probably going to try to show me notifications. Okay, one moment. And yeah, Jack liked my video. Okay, great. I don't know who Jack is. I mean, I'm proud of it, except for this one. It accidentally didn't have a title, but it's still got some decent viewership. And it's pretty cool. It's I found it took some time for me to find my stride. There were some early videos that were just like people didn't care. Very early videos. Oh, look, people are really liking it as we speak. Yeah. So I built this from nothing. and have continued to nurture it over months. And there's a lot available there, I think, on TikTok. Um, as dangerous and disturbing as it might be. I saw Nine Inch Nails in concert for the very first time ever. That was an epic experience. Tron Ares was amazing. Worth it for more than the soundtrack by Nine Inch Nails, which was epic. My mom and I enjoyed the album together. I spent 7 weeks in a grueling workout program with a badass personal trainer who then ghosted me. That was excruciatingly painful. We manifest our reality with subconscious beliefs. I manifested it. But then part of the journey of the year has been like, wait a second. Is everything that exists out here purely because of me? No, no, there's an objective feature and facet to reality. The wars in the Ukraine or wherever else, or the mistreatment by tyrants and genocidal maniacs. Like, I'm not directly responsible for that. I have the opportunity to respond to the world around me and to be about it in an intelligent and an intentional way that adds value. But no, it's not just about me. It's about we. And yeah, that that dance has been interesting. I made an epic music video after my mother helped me to clean and organize my house when I was first dealing with a certain illness. And here I'm gonna show you a little bit about that real quick because it's fun and cool. Okay, that's my video playlist, but here you go. It's There's so much that happens in this video. It's just so beautiful and cool. I love my mama. She organized my house while I was sick. I realized how much loves me. Barely able to contain, collect, and capture this awareness. I made this video. And then there's just like so much else that I've created in the past 12 months and released distinctions, videos, Superman startup Lex and the Sacred Masculine. Let's look at all the videos from the year. Yeah, man. That's been awesome. I mean, your life is art, so I'm just celebrating and sharing the art. Uzis for Jesus, The Apocalypse, and the Antichrist. I finished 12 Left Behind books in 14 days. How Doubt is Divine. You can tell when I discovered thumbnails. When I discovered and realized I knew how to do thumbnails. But yeah, so where does this year start? About right here, yeah. Oh, and there's a video of me dancing. So anyway, oh, and then getting creative with the thumbnails. That was fun. That was, let's see, November. Mystic Crew's been getting even cooler. So let me go back into the story. The eye. Oh man, my eye got inflamed. Probably from a staph infection. Probably from imperfect hygiene because I had blepharitis and a lot of oil coming through the meibomian glands in my eyes, and I worked my ass off doing the 369 high fruit, high alkaline diet with Anthony Williams work, um, ozonated olive oil applied 1 to 3 times a day, holistic methods, and yeah, I mean, it started as a sty, and then it became a chalazion, and then it became a big pustule infection. And vote my victory. I'm still going through it, but I have faith that it will be healed and transformed. God reliably delivered through manifestation people who were looking for me, high ticket clients. One of whom was literally praying for someone like me. Another one found me through a group call that I was on consistently. Another, I was like, dude, I've been adding value to you for years. May I coach with you? I was like, all right. Um, One guy who had come to my birthday party, another guy who I met at Growth Day, great event. Another, an infectious diseases doctor who hired me for dating help after meeting me at a dating event. God reliably delivered people who were looking for me. And let's see. Oh, I had some of the top people in the world speak and share and really support my healing journey through the Make Love Easy podcast. That's pretty cool. I completed my first screenplay. Let's talk about these. This is the best run-of-the-mill regular kind of book. Finished it this year. This is fun. Save the Cat as a screenwriting tool. Complete book of script writing. This is the mechanics and the structure of it, really, and then a little bit about the history of the industry by the guy whose scripts I love most, Jonathan Michaels, or what is it? J. I don't know what that J stands for, but J. Michael Straczynski. Let's go into books now. All right, The Tao Te Ching, a classic. Stephen Mitchell has the best translation. The Case for Jesus. You can't really walk away from the historicity of the New Testament after you read this book or The Case for Christ. It's like, oh, that we've got more evidence for Christ having existed and done strange stuff than we do for Alexander the Great's existence. Um, then You Are Mine, a psychedelic facilitator becomes a female like yoni support, whatever. She helps women with their vaginas to be more sexual or free or whatever. She converts to Eastern Orthodoxy. This is her real story. And it was telling. It was like, really? This is crazy. I discovered Alex Hormozy. He's amazing. So I got the hardcover copies of his books, $100 million offers, leads, money models. Highly recommend. I read them in the course of a month. Immediately started to apply, immediately faltered in applying because there's a lot of hustle and grind systems and structures. But the most important stuff here, like if you bring on a team or you just pick one thing from some of this, it's amazing. So on the side of Christ, these are all written by reverends. What you say is what you get, hung by the tongue, and the tongue of creative force. I was like, no shit, really? All these people claim to have produced epic new results in manifestation, acting and speaking in the name of Christ. Like, okay, maybe there's something there for me to investigate and be curious about. I don't know. Then, because I spent a lot of the time this year questioning, have I been in a cult? Read Walking Free from the Trauma of Coercive, Cultic, and Spiritual Abuse, a workbook of recovery and growth. That I didn't work through the whole thing, but great distinctions, absolutely great distinctions for establishing someone in their sovereignty and having them see how their nervous system may be hiding from them that they are hurting themselves through a community. The Superconscious Path by Christopher Michael Duncan. Nothing like this, yo. This is amazing. It's a fun illustration of the best principles of his philosophy. I read Star Trek Stargazer Oblivion, just fun. The Big Time by Fritz Lieber, also just fun. As a Man Thinketh, that was solid and an easy read and quick to finish. So many gems, 9 out of 10. Beautifully said, potently inspiring. The Medicine Gate. So I discovered it's called Living Prana and Prana cakes, like the brain cakes. They are pancakes made with healthy ingredients, gluten-free, vegan, and so they I coached the founders and they sent me this, and it's really cool. I also read this Dollhouse, great book. Also read an epic comic book version of the Bible. That was intense. I had trouble because I promised I would finish the Bible for myself in a year. And it was difficult. I still haven't read the actual Old Testament, but I went through it, at least visually, some large portion of it. And I was like, wow, look at all the graphic violence and tribalism and Game of Thrones level political intrigue throughout, the King's period. And it was just like, okay, read the Gnostic Gospel of Thomas, the Spiritual Capitalism book, and From Good Man to God Man by Jonathan England. Applying the Kingdom by Miles Monroe, Exit the Matrix by Andres Martinez, which was amazing. The Science of Scaling by Benjamin Hardy. From the Core by John Wineland, highly recommend. The Conscious Intimacy Games Manual by Ricky Goodall. And then I reviewed my journals. That was pretty cool. So you've got my journey in that direction. Then there's stacks, right? I'm almost done here. There's so in the world of high performance, what I call my full fun on stack is Kachava, the premier multivitamin, men's support with greens, reflexology, and ozonated drops. If someone were to do that, they would be having a best day ever. Another stack is niacin, CoQ10, D-ribose powder, and ozone IV treatments on great sleep. Or CoQ10 plus reflexology for engaging with people. Lots of presence and ease and grace. What I recommend is let honoring your word carry you through and out of hell. I'm doing this video in part for me, right? To remind me of all the lessons, right? I choose the meaning I give to and what I learn from all of my actions, my experiences, my results in my life. And I did get epic results, and I do choose the meaning that I create. I completed my first screenplay. That was awesome. Wrote with my brother. I can't figure out if Andor, Community, Limitless, Star Trek Con, Travelers, Pluribus, or Severance is the best show of the year. Probably Pluribus. Star Trek Con was a podcast. It was awesome. Um, First time discovering and mentoring with a nine-figure entrepreneur, Hormozy, through his books. Did a 12-day Apple date fast. I wrote the foreword to my next book, completed 360 days teaching myself Italian, took a class in script writing for series TV at UT, negotiated 60% off on a Qigong certification course. And I'm going to quote Morpheus. He says, "We remember that which matters most. We are still here." So I'm going to continue to move forward in that direction. And I invite you to look back on your year with some questions. Doubt your doubt of the thing you've left, and doubt your doubt, and doubt in general. It's useful and it's fun. It's interesting. It's also can be unnerving and unsettling, but still useful. Oh, Qigong has been amazing. I've taught it, I've practiced it most days. It's been a blast and a blessing and so much fun. So, is it supportive inquiry or is it neurotic anxiety? I don't know around the doubt. But the five questions are: how loved must you be to be right here, right now? Seriously, what is there for you to be grateful for right now in your life? How is everything working out for you and you're just enjoying learning how? How is everything working out for you? Just period. How could this work for you? I don't know, but it's good to know. All right. I love you so much. Have a beautiful day. Welcome to 2026. Go conquer the day. Peace, love, live long.